Every Christmas when I was a child, the film The Sound of Music would be played. It was a boring film as far as I was concerned, until I grew a bit older and found the real story behind the film. This is explained in our next video, and it talks about peace, the kind of peace that we here at the Christian Fellowship Centre in Northampton, where the Church of Christ meets, have discovered, and we pray that you can find it too. If we can help you, the door is always open for you to come along and find out more. Thank you.
Welcome to Austria. The year was 1938, just before the outbreak of World War II. Maria von Trapp and her husband, Georg von Trapp, and their 10 children were fleeing Austria. They were far from home, fleeing a deranged dictator who was hungry for power, seeking refuge in another land. And Maria decided to tell her daughter a story, but not of Cinderella or any other fairy tale, but a true story of another child who fled with his parents, seeking to escape an evil ruler. The story of Jesus, the Christ child, who fled Israel and went to Egypt to escape King Herod the Great and his edict that all babies born in Bethlehem aged 2 and under were to be killed in Herod's attempt to kill the Christ child. The story of the Von Trapp family has been made famous around the world from the movie The Sound of Music, and it is a story which teaches us the importance of resisting evil and corruption no matter what the cost. Maria von Trapp was born in Vienna and was raised an atheist. She was told that all the stories that were found in the Bible were not true. But one Sunday she accidentally wandered into a church service believing that it was a concert for Bach. And when she heard the man there speak about God and the stories that were found in the Bible, she was swept off her feet, and she soon decided to devote her life to God. Georg von Trapp was an accomplished captain in the Austrian Navy, and during World War I, he won numerous battles, and in fact, won a medal for his bravery. But when Austria lost the war, she was stripped of much of her territory, including all of her seashore, which meant that Baron von Trapp no longer had a navy, a job, or a vocation. Soon after this, he lost his wife from scarlet fever as well. And so this man, who was in fact very loving and gentle towards his children, was also a sad man, bereft of both vocation as well as his wife. And so he sold his home in Croatia, where he grew up, and moved to Salzburg, to a house that would no longer be filled with those old memories. Now, the family had gone through many governesses, 26 in fact, when Maria was called for help. But she was called originally not to be a governess, but to be a tutor and a help for young Maria von Trapp, which was in fact one of the children's actual name. She was named Maria as well. And so Maria came from the convent where she planned to become a nun to the von Trapp family home. And there she both tutored young Maria as well as helped her as she was recovering from scarlet fever. And there she fell in love with the children and indeed began to teach them music and bring music back into the home. One day she asked the children what songs that they knew, and the only one that they could come up with that they could sing was Silent Night. And so they sang together that song. And when the captain one evening heard their singing, he was filled with joy, and he picked up a violin and he started to play. And he said, "I thought that music would never come back into our home again." This music would bring healing into their lives. But they also began to sing as a family because of the financial challenges that the family faced. During the Depression, the Baron lost much of his family fortune when a bank failed that held his money. And so the captain was bereft both of his vocation as well as much of his family fortune. And so Maria began to take charge, renting out many of the rooms of the home. And they began to tour the country and, in fact, across Europe, singing as the Von Trapp family singers. And they were loved around the world. The Baron soon fell in love with Maria, and he asked her to marry him, not only for his sake, but so that the children could have a mother again. And she initially said yes, because she loved the children and she liked the Baron, but she soon came to love him as well. As the Nazis gained in power, they soon began to recruit men like Baron von Trapp, and they offered him a position back in the Navy, and he was even invited with his family to sing at Hitler's birthday party. He was offered fame, financial security, and a vocation and a purpose once again, but they could not take the money or the applause of a fascist regime, which was already stirring up hatred, displaying naked aggression. And so they left, not in the middle of the night, but on a train to Italy, and then London, and eventually settling in the United States, in Vermont. And several years later, after the Baron died, Maria and 3 of her daughters went and served as missionaries in Papua New Guinea, again fulfilling the call that God had upon her life to seek out the will of God and to seek to serve Him, no matter the cost, no matter the consequences. Hitler, like King Herod, would die, and the Third Reich would eventually be defeated. All the kingdoms of this world will eventually fail, falter, and pass away. But Christ's kingdom will never fade and will last for all eternity. For a time, they can appear invincible, and the world has a seductive call, offering fame, wealth, power, notoriety. The temptation from the kingdoms and power of this world often does not come from one major decision, but from a series of compromises, staying silent in the face of injustice, not helping the helpless, and turning a blind eye to evil. Because of silence that was shown during the rise of Hitler, he would go on and kill millions of people, the blind, the lame, the mentally ill, the handicapped, and millions of Jews, the very type of people that Jesus welcomed into His kingdom and showed love and kindness to throughout His ministry. Being a part of Christ's kingdom means taking a stand against injustice, sometimes from speaking out against wrong, and sometimes by simply refusing to be a part. The choice exists still today about whose will we're going to follow and what kind of king we're going to make king in our lives and what kind of kingdom we want to be a part of. So now, how about you? What do you think about this story of the Von Trapp family? What lessons can we learn from this? And how can we make God's will a greater part of our life and align our will with His?
Esther chapter 4 from verses 1 to 14 in the NIV says, When Mordecai learned of all that it had been done, he tore his clothes and went out into the city, wailing loudly and bitterly. Mordecai told Hathach, one of Queen Esther's servants, everything that had happened to him, including the exact amount of money Haman had promised to pay into the royal treasury for the destruction of the Jews. He also gave him a copy of the text of the edict for their annihilation, which had been published in Susa, to show to Esther and to explain it to her. And he told him to instruct her to go into the king's presence to beg for mercy and plead with him for her people. Hathach went back and reported to Esther what Mordecai had said. Then she instructed him to say to Mordecai, All the king's officials and the people of the royal provinces know that for any man or woman who approaches the king in the inner court without being summoned to the king has but one law, that they be put to death, unless the king extends the gold scepter to him and spares their lives. But 30 days have passed since I was called to go to the king." When Esther's words were reported to Mordecai, he sent back this answer: "Do not think that because you are in the king's house, you alone of all the Jews will escape. For if you remain silent at this time, relief and deliverance for the Jews will arise from another place, but you and your father's family will perish. And who knows but that you have come to your royal position for such a time as this?" We have to ask the question, don't we? Why is it that tyrants come to power? And many people use this to express dissatisfaction with God. How can these people rise to a prominent position and do the terrible things that they do? I mean, how would you have responded if you were called, for example, to sing at the birthday party of such a person? In the story of Esther, Haman was trying to destroy the Jewish people. What do you think it is that leads to people hating or wanting to hurt other people? We see so much of it in our world today, even in our own society. Queen Esther faced the choice of staying silent about the Jews' destruction or speaking out against it. What did she risk by speaking out? And what about us? What do we risk if we speak out against hatred or injustice? Was there a time when you felt it was necessary to speak out against something that was wrong? What happened? Were you able to do it? Did you do it and there were consequences? Thank you for the opportunity to talk about the lack of peace that we suffer in our broken world. Jesus Christ was born into this world to bring peace to each and every one of us, and he can bring into your life peace. Whatever you think about this season, Jesus is real and can bring peace. So we invite you to contact us and talk further about the issues raised in this video. You can find us on the web at northampton.church or storyofredemptionfilms.com or email northamptonchurchofchrist@gmail.com.